All right, folks. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Mayor and Council to order for October the 4th. It is 6 p.m. In just a moment, I'm going to welcome Chaplain Chris Tanton to lead us in the invocation, followed by Officer Thornhill to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And after these gentlemen have done that, if they'll stick around for a minute, I'm going to say a few words about them. So if you'll all please rise. And Chaplain Chris Tanton, if you'll come up here, sir, and we'll ask you to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. Let's pray. Father God, we just love you and praise you today. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your son Jesus and the cross and what it means. I pray for this meeting. I pray that you would bless the conversation, that it would be pleasing and glorifying to you. Pray that it would be productive. I pray for our leaders, for this local municipality, for our state, for our country. Lord, that you would continue to watch over us, keep us safe, help them to have wisdom in their decisions, and just that those decisions would best serve the community. And Lord, that we would just be able to enjoy peaceful, prosperous lives here that seek to glorify you. Thank you again for this time. We love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, Officer Thornhill, not here. Well, Chief, would you come up and do it? I'll say something nice about you. Have to think about it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You did good at that.
You don't have to talk about me.
You don't want me to? Well, I'll hold that back. I've talked about you a lot lately, so. Okay, Chaplain, thank you for being here. Chris and his wife Abby moved to Rica at the beginning of 2020 after spending almost 4 years serving as missionaries in the Dominican Republic. Before that, he taught math for 12 years at Mount Perrin Christian School in Kennesaw. He currently runs a small business out of his home and is a member of West Hills Church. He actively serves as chaplain at the Rica Police Department. Thank you for being here tonight, sir. Okay, we will move on here to ceremonial presentations. We've got a couple of guys been with us for a while. You got that microphone ready? All right, I'm going to recognize Bobby Elliott tonight for 5 years with us, and I'm going to ask Tom Barber to say something nice about him. And I think he can. He doesn't say a lot of nice things, but I think he'll put an effort in right here. Yeah, you got to come up.
Do what?
Yes, sir.
All right, so most of y'all know the history between us. We didn't know each other before I got here, but we almost did. So we both interviewed for the city manager job when the position was open after David. And the mayor likes to say that he got his first and second draft picks because they hired me and then we hired Bobby. So I started in July, October, right? And we have been like the perfect match because what he's good at, I don't know anything about. And if he weren't over there running plan review, well, y'all know what things were like when we got here. It would have just been more of the same, right? And he has fixed that from happening again, which has been wonderful. So Bobby, in addition to his, boring plan review stuff, loved the garden. So back in the day, the first couple of years, he used to come in here with cantaloupes that were about the size of a bowling ball and bring them to everybody. And when he wasn't doing that, and you wouldn't know this from just bumping into him, but he is a fantastic baker. And he bakes some wicked stuff. And he has brought, I don't know how many different things to work that we've enjoyed. So when you think about city employees, you don't think about gardening and pound cakes and all that kind of stuff, but it's part of what makes working here fun. We miss the gardening. I have to admit that. Tomatoes, corn. I mean, you got the idea. He lives in Bowden, so sort of what you do down there, I think. But Bobby has an announcement to make in addition to celebrating his 5 years.
I can't believe you set me up like that.
Believe it.
This is year 48 for me in local government. Yeah, I didn't start at 12 or 13. I started at 17. And, you know, it's never been about the money. It's about what you can do here. The giving part is always, when I was at Southern Tech, we had, and I was on like a 10-year plan at Southern Tech. You know, started work, worked 15 years, then started the school. All these young 20-year-olds, you know, man, what are you doing? You need to get out here in the private sector. You can make a killing. I said, it's just never been about the money. It's been about serving. And I have spent my entire life doing that. And the baking, the gardening, you know, I garden. I didn't garden this year. I had to paint my house. And I knew I couldn't do both because my daddy was a vegetable farmer. And being an engineer, how we are, just a little bit anal, you should see the way I garden. I spend so much time. There's no way I could have painted the house and gardened at the same time. So, no garden this year. But everything that I've grown in my garden in Bowden has been given away. Everything. What we didn't keep and put up at home, it's always been given away. Every cake I bake is given away. It's a gift from me. But that being said, I don't want to start crying here, you know, tonight. I'm not going to do that. But February the 3rd of 2023, I am retiring. But I will continue to work in some capacity to help build Rica, whether it be plan review, project management, quality control, quality assurance, whatever. I want to continue to work a couple, 3 days at home and maybe fish a little, garden a bunch, that kind of thing. But the 3 years I spent before I came to Villa Rica was as a city manager in the small town of Bowden, Georgia, which I really enjoyed that. But you don't go to school as long as I've gone to school to be an engineer and not miss it. Well, about 2.5 years in, I really started to miss it. Well, trust me, the almost 5 years I've been here, I haven't missed a thing. We have just gone crazy, especially the first couple of years. We built so many houses and, you know, but I really enjoyed it. I love the people here. You know, I thank the world, Tom. You know, he's right. We just clicked from day one. And I used to be at City Hall, and I'm going to say this, you know. I can get animated, not ugly, but just animated. Tom calls it Bobby's preaching again. And I understand from these ladies, since I moved to a new place, it's been a little bit quiet at City Hall. But that being said, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been fun. We've done a little bit of everything engineering-wise, and certainly hasn't been boring. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, next up we got recognition for Robert Francis, 10 years of service with code enforcement. Tracy, is that going to be you?
Yes, sir.
Come on up here.
I'm going to recognize Robert tonight. Amazing man with an amazing history, right? So military man, served 4 years in the military, worked for the state, was a warden for the state for 20 years, college, owned his own business, but he's worked here for 10 years, and if I had all my employees like Robert, it would just have been a dream, right? Now, I got great employees, but he's an example to all of us about working hard, 80 years plus young, right? And just, you give him any assignment, and he's a pit bull. He just goes. Never complains. I've never heard him complain in 2 years that we've worked together about anything. Just what else can I do? What else can I do? I mean, he'll come dragging in 30 or 40 signs in a day, which I told him I'd give him $1 bonus for every sign he pulled. I think he knew I was kidding a little bit. But this is just an amazing man. He lost his best friend and his wife this year. They just had a beautiful relationship, and he's just kept coming into work. Does an amazing job. He's very smart. He's very kind. And code compliance, they're not the most loved people of the, because they're always giving you bad news, like cut your grass, clean up your yard, all these different things. But Robert is just an awesome employee of the city of Villa Rica, and it's an honor for me to be able to work with him. And we thank you for your 10 years of service here and all that you've done. Not only that, but he served 2 years on the planning commission here, volunteered his time for 2 years. I mean, that's a servant's heart, and we're grateful to be a part of your life, Robert.
All right, give Robert a hand.
Well, I didn't know all this either. Till I just heard it. That's good.
I don't want to tell you I like you too much.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I've been here 10 years and enjoyed the 10 years. I really have. The people that I work with have backed me up when I needed backup, like the job I have. But like Tracy said, I was a warden for 20-something years, so I kind of know how people will come at you sometimes and kind of how to hold your own, I'll put it that way. I respect this. I moved out here from Douglasville, and I love Villa Rica. I mean, I've been here so many years, and it's great. And I appreciate what they're doing tonight. I just thank you.
We love you, Robert. Thank you.
All right. I'll give Robert another hand.
Come on.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Robert. Alyssa, you're gonna have to put some X's on the floor down there so that everybody knows where to stand. Okay. Let's go ahead and, is there any modifications to the agenda, or if not, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda from Mr. Carter, a second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, let's move into public comments. So there is a sign-up sheet. I have 2 names on here. After I go through these 2 names, if there's anybody else here, I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Go ahead and pull the timer up. We're going to ask you to please keep your comments on a professional level. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. If you deviate from this protocol, you'll receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate a second time, you'll be leaving. Only one person speaking at a time, and please no comments from the audience. address your comments to the mayor and council. And just know up front that we don't engage back and forth. First person up, Wesley Whitener. Come on up here, sir. Give us your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Name is Pastor Wesley.
Name
And
is
the
what?
address is 635 South Street.
Okay. Pastor Wesley.
I'm here because this past September, y'all's tourism department canceled the Gold Rush Festival parade as well as the Gold Rush Festival. And I'm speaking because some of my window washer customers, as well as some of the restaurants, went and they was kind of counting on the Gold Rush Festival because the Gold Rush Festival provides the extra income for their repairs on their restaurants or their business or anything like that. And they didn't have the money this year to do the necessary repairs on their business. They count on this Gold Rush Festival to do those repairs. Another subject that I want to talk about is that I have a problem with speeders going up and down South Street and all. And I'm just wondering what we can do about that, because my landlady has in apartment 6 of her duplexes, small children, and I would sure hate to see one of those children wander out in the road when those speeders come down that road and hit one of them. What are we going to do about it? Me alone can't do nothing about it except for tell the law about it. It is up to the law enforcement to force and uphold the law. That's all I have to say, but thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you, Wesley. So I'll address the Gold Rush Festival, though. It is regrettable that that had to be canceled. We waited up until the very last minute to make that decision, but we were looking at rain all of the next day, and there are a number. We'd already had the band tell us that they wouldn't be there. We had the cars that are used in the parade, many of which are convertibles, tell us that they wouldn't be there. Other vendors had already notified us that they wouldn't be there. And indeed, it did rain during the couple of hours that would have been the regular setup time for the parade, and then did rain somewhat during what would have been the parade hour, which was 10 a.m. So I agree with you, Wesley. We do regret that we had to do that, but that's not something that you just reschedule. A lot of planning goes into that. And it really is planned for a whole year. But I agree with you. I regret that had to happen. As far as South Street speeding, no. We'll make sure that the chief's aware of that, and we'll just make sure that we pay a little more attention over there, okay? Okay, next up, Lena Taylor. You disappeared from over there.
Yeah, you still out, yeah.
Give us your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Lena Taylor. I live at Hickory Lane Road.
Hickory Level Road.
Hickory Level Road.
Why do I know that?
Wherever it was that you moved.
All right, go ahead.
I'm the HR director, and I'm just here to just let everyone know about our upcoming job fair. It's our twice annual job fair. So we're having it this Thursday, October the 6th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have a couple of great corporations that are going to be there, but most importantly, we're going to be there. So we have a couple of great openings, the city of Villa Rica, and especially with our police department. So we're just making sure that everyone knows. Hi, everyone. Please come to the job fair if you know anyone, whether they live in Villa Rica, outside of Villa Rica, around Villa Rica, 2 hours. We just want some really great employees who can come by and who are looking to change their career. We're going to have a great time there. So hope to see you on Thursday, October the 6th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We didn't even put the timer up for you. Oh, it was in the background? We had it? Okay. All right, I've reached the end of those who signed up. Is there anybody here who didn't sign up who would like to speak in public comments? If you would, I'd be happy to give you 3 minutes to do that. All right, seeing nobody else, I'll close the public comments. I'm just picking on you. Trying to give you a chance to come up and be famous. Okay, so we'll close public comments. Let's move into council updates. Is there any council members like to be recognized for some comments? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Okay, I got a few. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Robert. Robert, it's always better to be the pit bull than be chased by the owner's pit bull when you're sighting them. But thank you, guys. I also wanted to thank our Planning and Zoning Commission members. You know, I don't think about it all the time, other than I consult them once in a while to say, hey, you know, what did you feel about this thing? They vet. You know, on our agenda are a bunch of things that go to them before us, and all our boards are volunteers. They're people that give of their free time, so they vet a number of these issues, and you'll even hear how they voted on things that we'll be looking at that come to them prior to us. I wanted to mention something about the Dollar General store, our newest one. You know, everybody knows we need another one. But you know what? We were kind of sold on this particular Dollar General, at least by the fact that it was going to have fresh produce and fruits and vegetables, that sort of thing. And it's the one at Dallas Highway and Punkintown Road. And we had Mr. Jason Fritz, who was the representative for the marketing for Dollar General, on video tell us in a meeting what they were going to bring to that store. And as a result, we shared that information with other people, only to walk in the store and find out it wasn't there. And all I can say is, I have called him, and he referred me to Brian Sullivan, who I think is probably part of Sullivan and Wickley, because they told us what that store was going to have in it, and that store does not have what we were told. And they haven't called me back since the first call. But I'm going to follow up with them. But I just think these businesses need to think twice before they do that again, and lead us down a path when we're approving something and tell us one thing and not come through with what they've told us. On the positive side, I'd like to thank a number of different citizens on some improvements to old mill houses and some of the historic homes we have around the community. One or two of them over the last year, and one more recently, has been in the Fullerville area. And if you drive through there on Rockmart Road, you will notice, because we have some houses over there that are deplorable, and some of them are owned by landlords who don't take care of their property. But someone has taken upon themselves to restore a few of those homes. Also, on Westview, where Umberto owned several of the old mill houses that have been restored. They're still working on one of them, and I've noticed the one he didn't have right on the end, a business has totally redone that one. I'm telling you, these were worthy of Jeff Foxworthy jokes. You know, they just were really unkept. And, you know, they bought them, they're investing their time and money in them. And the last one on Peachtree Street, I had my deadly 3 houses over there. I had just constant code enforcement. Robert probably knows a little bit about that. Right on Peachtree Street, and there's a couple over there that are totally, and a tree fell in this one. They are really investing and totally restoring that old house, and it's just good to see. because there's history in these homes that are around here, and I just appreciate those people. And lastly, I had an opportunity to meet with our GDOT representative for this area, and he has told, I was assured that the roundabout at Punkintown will be receiving reflective devices and things that make it show up a lot better at night. And he also informed me of what the city had to do on our part for a couple crosswalks downtown in order to improve them for pedestrian safety. So I was appreciative to him on spending that time, and I thought some other people might want to know a little bit about that roundabout because it doesn't show up very well at night. We really need it. It's coming. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else want to be recognized? Okay. Hearing no one else, I'll close the council updates. So I'm going to move into the consent agenda. So we have a modification to one of the items, but Tom, it looks to me like maybe both of these items need to be pulled back, 10 and 11. I know that this deals with the development agreement, but it also deals with the escrow funds. So, or David, would you like me to pull them both back?
No,
or-
just number 10 would need to be, is the only one that's been modified at all. Number 11 is not changed at all.
Okay, so 10, okay. So, and council, I'll update you on that after we do this, but I'm going to pull consent item number 10 off of the consent agenda. So let me go through the consent agenda, and then I'll ask if there are any objections before I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda. All right, consent item number 1, acceptance of deed of gift of 46 acres. Consent number 2, amendment to the Old Town Revitalization Plan. Consent number 3, approve 5% cost of living adjustment. Consent number 4, partial city copier replacement. Consent number 5, 2022 mural request via the Georgia Mural Trail Project. Consent number 6, change order number 1 for pump station and manhole rehabilitation project. Consent number 7, acceptance of street dedication for Meadowlark Drive. Consent number 8, approval of updated utility rates to be effective January 1, 2023. Consent number 9, resolution of support, improving neighborhood outcomes in disproportionately impacted communities, program grant application and match commitment. I'm going to remove consent number 10 and consent number 11, escrow agreement with Fuqua Acquisitions 2 LLC. Is there any objections to these items? If none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll
as
make a
presented.
motion to adopt the revised consent agenda.
I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as revised and a second from Mr. Carter and a second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, let's take up item, what would have been A11. Mr. Macklin has made a slight modification to the development agreement, and I will let him.
You say A11, but we took 10 off, so
Yeah,
it's 10.
Oh, 10, I'm
it's
sorry.
It would be A10 is what was taken
Okay,
off, and that's where the
A10.
change was made. And I'll just briefly say, the development agreement that we showed you this morning with Fuqua Acquisitions, Roman numeral 2, has had one addition. I think you've got a copy of the addition. There is a line in blue that was added that simply says that the city may exchange the funds in the escrow account with funds in an equal amount from another source at any time. The reason for that is if at some point in time the city does take out a bond related to the overall project, related to the connector, then we want to preserve the right to stick bond funds in there in place of the funds that we're currently going to stick in there to begin with. I think I mentioned to you that we were taking funds from several sources to create the escrow account, and we just want to maintain the internal ability to transfer the funds around as needed.
Okay. Let me just to try to clarify this too, because Mr. Carter had some questions earlier. So the development agreement itself in its entirety is in the packet, which
Correct.
was what the council put
It
on the
is.
consent agenda earlier today.
It is.
The only change is this one blue sentence on this single sheet of paper that you handed us tonight.
Yes,
I want the council to hear that.
that is correctly true.
Okay, correctly true. So council, all that has changed in that full development agreement is this one sentence, but you only received one page instead of the entire printed document. So you have to refer back to the original in your packet to see where this sentence fits in. Okay, any questions? All right, if there are no questions, then does someone have the motion?
I have the motion.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I'm assuming the motion has not changed.
I don't think so.
I move to authorize the city manager to establish an account with Synovus Bank and to deposit the sum of $7,208,947 in said account to serve as an escrow fund to pay costs incurred pursuant to the city's development agreement with Fuqua Acquisitions 2 LLC.
I would, that sounds like that was the motion for A11.
It's the same motion for both of them.
Yeah. If I could just verbally then add a proposed amendment to your motion, which is going to be that I further move that the city authorize the mayor and city manager to execute the development agreement with Fuqua Development, Roman numeral 2.
Okay, Mr. Carter.
As attached.
I'll go with that revised motion, yes.
Okay. Do I have a second for the revised motion? I have a second from Ms. Marchman. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, thank you, David. If you will just write that up so that
I will.
Alyssa can have it. Okay, let's move on to governing body. This is going to be on the approval of the minutes. So are these each separate items? I guess they are. So let's just take them one at a time. B1, approval of special called meeting minutes of August 23, 2022. Are there any corrections that council sees? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of August 23rd, 2022.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. McPherson to approve the special called meeting minutes of August 23, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McCoy. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, item B2, approval of special called meeting minutes of August 30, 2022. Are there any corrections by any council members? All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve the special called meeting minutes of August 30th, 2022.
I have a motion from Ms. McPherson to approve the special called meeting minutes of August 30, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McCoy. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. B3, approval of council meeting minutes of September 13, 2022. Are there any modifications or corrections to those? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Ms. Marchman to approve the council meeting minutes of September 13, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Carter. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, B4, approval of special called meeting minutes of September 20, 2022. Are there any corrections or modifications? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Approve the special called meeting minutes of September 20, 2022.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. McPherson to approve the special called meeting minutes of September 20, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. It looks like we've been meeting a lot. I didn't realize we'd been in all these meetings. Okay, so those are done and out of the way. Let's move on into community development. Do each of these items have public hearings? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Ron. First item up, VA-13-22, 395 West Bankhead Highway. This is a stream buffer variance. This item will also have a public hearing. Will you briefly introduce the item?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, members of the public. MQSQ LLC of Villa Rica, Georgia is requesting a variance for an encroachment of about 9,235 square feet into the 75-foot stream buffer and 2,552 square feet into the 50-foot stream buffer. The site is located on the corner of South Dogwood Street and West Bankhead Highway at 395 West Bankhead Highway. And these variances tonight, if approved, would advance the construction of a 1,300 square foot Little Caesars restaurant and a gasoline station with a canopy and a convenience store of 3,250 square feet. So these are all permitted uses on the site. Staff is recommending denial for this application, and being that this is a variance, it did not have to go to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Ron at this stage? All right.
Ron.
Mr. Momtahan.
Um,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So looking at the applicant's letter of intent, they are stating that if they are approved for this variance, that they would actually be reducing existing encroachments. Can you talk a little bit on that for me?
Yes, they would be. So on the chart that you see on the first page of the letter of intent, the proposal, at least for the city buffers, the 50 and the 75, all three of them, you see them all reducing. But they're going to be paving back again in certain sections of the lot, which are the totals that you would see that they have in the third column there, the one in the middle under proposed. So regardless, they would still need to come here for the variances for the 50 and the 75. And they'll be going to the state for the 25 for the 213 square feet you see there.
Okay. So, but you agree though, I mean, so it's, the area that would be encroached would be different, if approved, would be different than what is currently encroached. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and the applicant actually will show on his exhibits, he does have a small slide presentation that he would like to show everyone to kind of clarify what areas are going to be paved versus what areas are not going to. But there's, it's kind of a bit of a mix of both. There's some portions that have existing paving, but there's also areas that are proposed to be paved that are going to be new.
Okay.
At least from what I could see on that plan.
Okay. Also, the applicant discussed in the letter, it discussed a water quality system. I'm trying to find that reference here. Yeah, so it says an underground water quality system. Is that something that you could just give an example of what that exactly would be?
I might have to kind of bounce that off of Bobby, being
Okay.
he's the engineer, but I do know that they do have an underground storm water detention system that they're proposing that's very close to the corner with the dogwood.
Mm-hmm.
The applicant also wanted to kind of go over that in their presentation too, from my conversation with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bobby, do you want to talk about that just for a second?
I didn't see you back there.
Yeah, the site currently has no stormwater controls on it at all. And since it's going to be, the proposal is to redo the site completely, then all stormwater controls that are required under the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual will come into play. Water quality is one, regular detention is one, and channel bank protection is the other.
Mm-hmm.
So the underground detention will have to go, well, the detention, regular detention will have to go underground because there's no place else to put it.
Okay, so this
So-
okay, so this water quality system is an underground detention pond.
Well, it could be, but now it's a separate device
Mhm.
than normal detention. So they're gonna have to work something else in there to help control the runoff. The first 1 inch of rain off that parking lot has got to go through some kind of treatment system before it's put in that stream in the back.
Okay,
That's what water quality is.
And that would be required by UDC and the state.
Yes, that's required by all of our stuff being, all of our development standards, which is all tied to the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual. It all comes into play, yes.
So that wouldn't be something that if we were to approve him, this applicant tonight, that we would need to stipulate or anything like that. That would already be,
You get it for free.
okay, very good.
That's an interesting choice of words there, Bobby. Okay, all right. Is that,
Yes,
that
sir.
got you? Okay, anybody else? Any questions before I bring up the applicant?
Just, Ron, would you mind, I know we did this morning, explaining where this property is so people watching and everything else will know which property we're talking about in their mind as they drive through town?
Yes, ma'am. This is the northwest corner of South Dogwood Street and West Bankhead Highway, directly adjacent to Villa Rica Elementary School. On 78. Mhm. The ice machine, yes.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me get you to come up. I'm going to let you give us your name and address for the record, and then I'll let you. So do you have a presentation? Is this you?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
perfect. Hello, everybody. My name is Rohil Hada. I live at 6331 Crestgate Lane, Tucker, Georgia, about an hour away from here. I do own some businesses in Douglasville, which is pretty close by here. Thank you, first of all, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, for allowing me to come out here and present myself. So this is like staff mentioned that this is the variance for the 50-foot and 75-foot buffer. If you look at the background of this property, the site is currently in quite poor condition. There is no protection for the stream whatsoever over there. We have already, the owners have already spent close to $100,000 to stabilize the bank, so that it's, it doesn't, all the rocks and everything doesn't fall into them. We have already helped to stabilize those things. On top of that, there is no water, there is no storm water or the water quality system like the city engineer mentioned. And all the red area that you see, that's currently all of that, especially the dark red area, that's in the state buffer zone. So all of that is in the state buffer, and rest of that light red area, all of that is in the 50-foot buffer, and then the gray area and some other part of the area, this is all paved. The only vegetation that you have is towards the south side of towards the eastern southeastern side of the property, where you have a small strip of vegetation near the stream. So what we are proposing is, and rest of it is either asphalt or gravel. So most of it is either paved or it has gravel. So there is no greenery or there is no landscaping around it. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is the buffer encroachment. So right now, currently the lot is at 41.5% encroachment into 50-foot, 75-foot, and the 25-foot buffer. We are reducing encroachment down to 22.9, which is almost 18.5% less than what it would be as compared to the current conditions of the lot. If we can go to the next slide. So in this slide, you can see that all the green area that we are showing, all of that area would be converted into landscape. So we'll be planting grass and trees and all of that, whatever the city of Villa Rica requirements are. Other than that, we'll be spending some money to further stabilize the stream that's going right behind us. We'll also be putting more grass and everything to stabilize that and make sure that the water, we have more pervious area instead of impervious area. We are also proposing the corner where we have proposed that the detention pond would be at that corner, which what city engineer was talking about. We are proposing an underground detention. And for water quality, a lot of time when we are developing a gas station, what we run into is that any petroleum products that may wash off during rain, those have to go through like a oil water separator or some other sort of water quality device before we put them into the detention, and through there we put them into the stream. So it has to be taken care of as per the Georgia Stormwater Blue Book, as they call it. So we would be doing all of that. We will be putting a trench around the canopy, gas canopy, to make sure that any wash off, it goes to that trench. Through there it goes to a cleanup device or oil water separator or any other water quality that we discuss with the city of Villa Rica, and we come up with a common whatever needs to be done. And then we put it to the stormwater, and there where we control the runoff, and then from there it would be pretty much transferred to the stream. So that's pretty much the plan. So what owners are proposing is that we would be improving this site tremendously. This is completely, kind of abandoned site when we bought it. So we are proposing to bring it all up to the requirements of city of Villa Rica. The building requirements, everything would be as per the standard of city of Villa Rica. We have shown some examples or some renderings of how the building would look like, and any recommendation in that sense is more than welcome. If we can do something else to bring it closer to what city of Villa Rica is trying to approach as the architect of the city, we'll be more than happy to accommodate any of those changes if there are any, for sure. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
All right. Council, does anyone have any questions for the applicant? All right, Ms. McCoy.
If you don't get the variance, is the site even usable? can you use it?
No, the only usable side is the pad that you see right there, not the gas station side, but the Little Caesars pad that's right there
Yeah.
next to the detention
Yeah.
pond. That's basically grandfathered in. So that
Okay.
was already there, the foundation and everything is there, so that's grandfathered in, and we can convert that into whatever we can. That's the only use out of it, and the ice box. Other than that, there is no real use out of it. So that's why we are proposing this, that, you know, if we get a chance to develop it, because all of the stabilization and everything, that's a lot of money that owners would be pouring in. So for us to bring it all together, business plan wise, it just makes sense to try and maximize whatever we can, you know, develop out of this. So it helps us as well as we can develop something, a nice property for city as well.
Okay, Ms. McCoy?
So that means no gas station. In a nutshell, no gas station if you don't get the variance.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
Yes, no gas station or any other thing for that matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it?
That's it.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions for the applicant? Okay,
I have a question.
Mr. Monteith.
What's going to happen to the ice box?
Depends on how much you love it. We can keep it or we can get rid of it because we'll be selling ice in the gas station. So
Sure, yes, okay. I think there's another one in
Okay,
town already.
let me get you to just step over here for a second. I'm gonna do a public hearing, and then I'll let, you may get called back up after that. So,
Behind Captain D's.
is there anybody here who would
In front
like
of
to
Home
speak
Depot.
for or against this variance request? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll come back to staff. Okay, council, do you have any questions for staff? All right, Ms. McPherson.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so. We realize that if a bomb went off on that property, it would look better than it does right now. So it's real easy to buy into almost anything that improves it, but practically speaking, Ron, without these variances, do you consider that property developable?
I would consider it only developable within a very, very, very small amount. I would say, I believe I did look at these numbers and crunch them already, and I wouldn't say that about 85% of the lot is covered by the any of these three stream buffers. So that only leaves him with about a 15% area of his entire site that he's actually able to build on without these variances. So
Okay, so, all right, so the state has to approve if he goes within the 25-foot. That's what the state requires. Do you see, because I've read your report, that there's any, you know, it talks about the general welfare and safety or health of the community. If we were to approve this and require these things for the water runoff and everything else, that there's any public safety issue we should be concerned about?
as long as the stormwater quality system is up to the city's standards, then I don't think that there are any concerns that I have at this point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. McCoy.
But the staff recommends denial. So what I was reading is that the recommendation for denial is because we don't want to set a precedent because this is really large.
Yeah, that's basically my argument in a nutshell. Yes.
Okay, so if we don't set, let me think for a minute, sorry. Are you saying that it might work for this particular project, but if but down the road, if another project that wants this much variance, it may not particularly work and then would be a safety hazard? Is that what you're trying to say?
I wouldn't say a safety hazard. I would say that every time that we either approve or deny variances and we have our lines of reasons behind it, I try to think also universally for all parcels and how it would impact everyone, no matter what type of property it is. And so I looked at our past approvals that we've given out in the past year for stream buffer variances, and we've had a couple of them now, and none of them have incorporated such a large amount of an entire site area like this one has. And so I could go into exact, specific examples, but ultimately, as far as percentage of site area, this is definitely the highest that
Okay.
I've seen under my tenure here.
Okay.
So it probably concerns me, when you're talking about the precedent, one, but two, what you say here is that your concern really is about how large this is, but you also say until a water quality system and stormwater plan are reviewed in detail. So my concern is that we run into issues with the EPD, that we run into issues with our stormwater control here at the city. I mean, there's a reason why we have these buffers already. We already have larger buffers than the state requires because of some water issues that we've had before. Is that not your larger concern here?
That I would say that's a supporting concern. That's one of them. We've had these stream buffers since around 2010, and I understand that may have come from some sort of judgment from the state's EPD department. So there's always caution with these types of variances. So that does play into the reasonings for a denial. Yes.
Yep. And that might concern me that we run afoul of them again because we're trying to accommodate. Do you have something to add, Bobby?
Mr. Mayor, that small stream in the back has been declared an impaired stream segment by the state because of various pollutants that come through the middle of town. So, whatever's done there is going to have to be pretty much overly done to help protect that stream segment from getting any worse. And I'd venture to say, based on what's out there right now with all that asphalt, that's been contributing heavily to the impairment of that stream. So, but it's been identified in our master stormwater plan with the state. It is an impaired stream.
Well, if we talk about the water quality system and the stormwater plan, is there such a plan for either of these that would mitigate these concerns and still allow this maybe to move forward without impairing the entire site? Because we've heard the applicant say, and we've even heard staff say, that without these variances, his site becomes largely unusable. And of course, we don't want to put anybody in a situation like that, but water quality has got to come first here, and especially when we're under the sort of sight of EPD on a regular basis. So are there mitigating things? Are there conditions that might allow the council to feel good about varying this?
Mayor, without seeing a final concept plan and looking at it closely, I'm afraid to speak on that without being sure to cover it. It's a small site. It's going to take a lot of controls to keep that site in compliance with the state. I mean, they're going to have to apply to the state for the 25-foot variance part. And just to get over that hurdle with the state, knowing that site, they're going to have to really work hard to get the state to agree to that.
Okay.
I know they did the first one. They repaired some washes in that creek in the back, but the state's going to know from us that 25-foot variance that they're going to submit for is just part of what they're going to need on that site. Of course, the state's they're not going to act on that. They're just going to act on their 25. But they can lean on the other folks at the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District that established those 75-foot buffers to begin with to kind of, keep us in check.
Right, because I don't know that everybody fully appreciates or understands how we ended up with these. I think sometimes people think the council just one day decided they wanted these 75-foot buffers, and that is not true. That came from the state. So there have been times when we've had variances come before the council, though, that we made contingent on the state's approval of that 25-foot buffer. In other words, we would have granted it if the state were to grant their variance. Is that something that we could consider here?
Mayor, it's kind of a cart and a horse kind of thing. When they apply to the state for their 25-foot buffer variance, the state requires them to supply a letter of concurrence from the local issuing authority that we agree with what they're doing. So, in other words, we're going to give them our blessing on applying to the state for that buffer variance. And so it's like, yeah, you can put a condition on it, but we're going to help that condition from our end. That is standard procedure. The state will not even look at a buffer variance application unless it has a letter of concurrence from the local issuing authority.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask
Yes,
Bobby
sir.
a question also on the, as I understand it, there's a plan to have underground storage tanks there for gasoline. Is there even any possibility of having underground storage tanks in a stream buffer?
No, sir, they will not allow that in the buffer itself. They've got to keep those outside.
But that
Does
would
their plan call for that?
Um,
Have you seen a site plan?
So the canopy is over a section of two stream buffers that kind of come together like this. So it's almost like a triangle shape where the gas, I guess the gas pumps would be in the ground, which would be outside of the stream buffer area. I think she's pulling it up now.
Get a little closer to
Yep,
that mic,
you can
Ron.
see that. If you see the on the bottom left-hand side, the rectangle there, that's the gas canopy. So you could see the dotted lines kind of going around it. So those dotted lines represent the 75-foot stream buffer. So it would be located, it looks like partially in one on the far left side, one of those pump aisles. But there's no way to tell on this plan where the underground storage is going to be. It can be somewhere away from that canopy altogether.
Okay.
Bobby, can I
All
ask
right.
a question?
Mr. Montahan.
To that point, Bobby, about what Mr. Mecklin raised about the underground storage for the gas pump, that would be true for the state, but could that be part of their encroachment here? Is that we permit them to put if we grant this encroachment for our buffers, would that then be allowing them to put these tanks within our buffers?
I would add the condition that the tanks must be outside the buffers.
Okay.
And what you're seeing up there, those are the actual pump islands. He doesn't have the tanks dotted in.
Right.
And I'm not sure what size tanks he's going to put in. I mean, there are all kinds of sizes and lengths, diameters, that kind of thing. But those tanks do not need to be in that buffer.
Okay.
Okay. Are you?
Well, I guess my only other question would be, it sounded to me in the beginning, though, Bobby, you were saying that if this development moves forward, that stream would actually be in a better position than it is now. But then maybe you kind of aren't saying that exactly. I mean,
well, consider it today.
uh-huh.
Consider it developed with some robust controls for stormwater, water quality, et cetera, everything that we can have him put in there. That site, the rain that falls on that site will be in better shape and condition than it is today, just based on there are no controls there today, and everything that falls on that asphalt today is washed straight into that stream.
Okay. And when you say those robust controls, those would be required by the state, regardless of what we approve tonight.
Well, let's just say that I have a little bit of latitude
Uh-huh.
in what I will require him to put in, and it won't just be the minimum based on this site.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
If y'all decide to move forward with it.
Okay.
All right. I'll come back to that in a second. Ms. McPherson.
Oh,
Oh, you were doing that for Danny. All right,
Well,
Mr.
no,
Carter.
I was doing, but I really thought he beat me to it, so
Okay.
he should go first.
Okay.
Ladies first.
All right.
How do you feel about this installation? Do you think they can actually improve upon the water quality of the stream that it is now if we allow this to happen?
Well, this is I guess everybody can agree that this is a really, really ambitious plan that he's got based
Yeah.
on what's there.
That's why I'm asking, because it looks very ambitious.
I wouldn't be afraid to say that water quality would be improved. with this site developed?
With y'all in charge and making sure all that is done, we'll have better water through the stream.
And you know, you never know what the state's gonna require on the 25-foot buffer. They could come in and say, okay, sure, we'll approve it, but you're gonna have to do all of this extra stuff. They're at free liberty to ask whatever they want. In other words, he's gonna have to submit a plan to the state for his buffer variance. And if they don't like what they see, he'll have to resubmit it. But we do know that site right now, the way it's sitting, is a real problem as far as water quality. In fact, with the fact that that stream segment is already impaired.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, I just want to read a short portion from the staff report. You know, at the bottom of where it gives the criteria for us to look at whether to approve something or not. The last thing under E, comments, a landscape plan, open space plan, and other details will be required to be submitted to the city engineer for review prior to construction drawings approval. Should council agree to approve this request, it's recommended that conditions be attached that specify the following. The applicant shall seek, receive approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Georgia EPD in order to vary within the 25-foot stream buffer by no more than the amount specified within the letter of intent dated August 11, 2022. Should either agency deny the request, the variances from the 50 and 75-foot stream buffer shall be automatically revoked. So I found that helpful because I felt like in some ways, as we weigh, should we do this or not, that we also have this backup with the state who has to approve it too.
If the state does not approve that, the 25-foot variance, everything else is just going to fall by the wayside.
And still has a stipulation that certain things have to come to you before approval too.
Yeah.
So that makes me more comfortable with it.
Well, you know, that's what we do now. I mean, Ron and I get together and, he'll review the zoning, landscaping. I'll look at all of it. I'll look at the civil part of it, and we don't stamp anything until everybody is ready.
Well, that language that you just read, though, is proposed language if there were to be an action by the council to approve the variances. Let me ask one question, though, Bobby, because you touched on it just now, but I was already going to ask. Could this site plan be redrawn if the state were to, if we were to grant the variance for the city's buffers? And then he went on to the state and took that and said the city said yes, so now I want you to say yes, but the state ultimately said no. Can he redraw this to make it fit without the 25, having already gotten the additional 50 from the city?
That's a question for the engineer. I mean, could he
Well,
make
you're
it?
the engineer.
Would he?
Well, you're
their
mine.
design engineer. Could he make it work without having to ask for the 25-foot buffer?
That's my question. Is it possible? Is it possible?
I suppose it's possible.
Okay. I mean, I just think that would be a concern.
Yeah.
Because what you sort of indicated is that without that 25, this whole thing's dead. But I think it can be redrawn. I'm not an engineer, but I think somebody knows how to get creative and make that work, having already gotten the approval while the council believed that it would be subject to the state's approval of the 25.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a concern.
Look at what's on the screen and making sure everybody can tell where the buffer lines are. That canopy, that gas station canopy, the right-hand side of that gas station canopy has encroached onto the corner of the 75-foot buffer, as you can see it. That's how far those buffers come out into that site. Now that's on the main stream in the back. This little side stream on the side over here, those have radiuses that come out. We've already talked about the 75-foot that goes through that gas pump island on the left side of that canopy. So you don't have, but you probably only have like a quarter of an acre on that site that's not inside a buffer.
So it'd be tough.
Yes.
But it could happen. So really from where I'm sitting, my concern is really this. We don't need the EPD down here really on the city for allowing this So I would feel comfortable with it if I knew the state had to approve that final 25, because if they do that, then I feel like we're good with the other 50.
Well, we can just.
But if they don't approve it, and we still have already granted this, and then we end up with a problem out there, that's going to be on us, and it's going to be on us in the larger picture, not just that site.
Yes.
So that would be my concern, and I guess I would. What about a condition? I just want it conditioned on the state. I mean, is that, you just don't think that's possible?
Well, I would make the condition that they must apply to the state for the 25-foot buffer and must be approved before we go further with
If that's
that.
possible, then that feels better to me. Ms. Marchman?
Well, do we vote before the state make the
That's what he's saying. They need this to come out of here tonight.
But we got to do something before the
Right.
state.
Can I ask
All
a
right,
que-
Mr. Montana, one more
Well,
time.
I just want to ask a question about the precedent thing that we were talked about earlier. I mean, Ron, I understand where you're coming from on this is a significant amount of variance, but I don't think we've had a stream buffer variance before us once where there is an existing encroachment and the proposal, yes, it is an encroachment, but yet it's also actually reducing an encroachment. I mean, will that not be distinguishable for future applicants, you know?
Yes and no. The reason I say that is because, sure, if there was nothing on a site before and someone wants to introduce new pavement to a site, it's obviously an encroachment. I mean, I think we all can agree to that. On a site like this, if they're reducing paving, but they're also going to be reinstalling pavement not only in the same areas, but also in new areas, then I would imagine that would be essentially, I mean, at least I treat that the same as I would if it was a completely raw site with nothing on it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, Bobby.
One last thing, all the stream buffer variances that mayor and council have approved since I've been here, none of them have been on an impaired stream segment.
Can he expand a little bit of what that means for
Sure.
us?
Would you tell us a little bit more about what it means to be an impaired stream segment?
Impaired stream segment means pretty much that it's polluted. It's got too many petroleum products in it. It's got E. coli in it. I mean, it comes all the way through from above South Carroll, all the way through South Carroll by your office. That's the same stream that comes around and goes on down. And it's part of our sampling program that we have to submit with our water quality program with the state. And it was found to be impaired 3 years ago. So
Okay.
it's got stuff in there that shouldn't be in there.
Okay.
So this would actually improve the quality of the water going downstream of this, where this site is, due to their
The development of
input.
this site, if we can make it work, will improve the water quality that leaves this site, yes.
Yeah, from there downstream.
Yes.
Not gonna make a significant difference because this thing traverses such a long distance. It's
I know.
be a percentage of,
Yeah, it's downstream though.
sure.
All right. Okay. All right. One more time, Ms. McCoy.
So is there a detailed plan to know where everything's going to go and where the tanks are going to go, where the stream's going to go, how we're going to get this underground detention system? Have we looked at a plan? So
Well-
you're asking us to approve or disapprove something that doesn't have that plan?
Typically, the plan comes after the zoning. I know, that's crazy in this case.
Yeah, a
Um,
little.
I would really like to see a final concept plan of what the intent is before, I hate to say it, before council acts on this.
Ms. Applicant, let me ask you a question. I think there are a number of questions here tonight, and I think that, and I'll let David interrupt me if I need to, but I think that we would like to maybe get a few more answers. Maybe we could table this rather than do a decision tonight. If we were to do that, would that be a problem for you?
No, it won't be a problem, but if I may, the questions that you all have asked, I have some answers for them that may help you feel a little bit
I'll
different.
grant you that little bit of time, but I would
Okay.
also like you to give that to staff so we could get it in writing if we were to table this tonight. But go ahead, I'll certainly give you the time.
Okay, so one of the major concerns is that can we put the petroleum tanks in there? The petroleum tanks, they are tested by EPD, the state fire marshal will come in, they will inspect it, they'll make sure that there are no leaks, they're vacuumed. The whole testing will go in before they even let us put the tank in there, and if the tank can stay inside the ground. So that all goes to the state, and their fire marshal, and they all have to approve it before even city fire marshal comes into play, and they would approve it on their end as well. So I just wanted to give you guys that, I guess, a peace of mind that it's not only on city, state actually goes through the whole thing. Secondly, this is, I understand that this is the precedent for 22% encroachment. That's huge, but I believe that the site already is completely encroached, or so much encroached that, and this site is like staff said that it's already 85% not developable. So I don't think that there is a precedent before which would say that the site is completely not developable if these buffers are not met. So from that perspective, we are actually reducing it, and also this site is completely non-developable if this is not approved. So I would say that there is no precedent for that. So that would be a very different case in this scenario, because 85% of the property is in buffers, and we need variances to do anything, let alone thinking of development. So that's one answer. One of the things that you guys have touched upon is getting the state approval for something like this. So yes, we'll have to go through the state approval for this thing. And even let's say if my engineer comes up with a better design where we don't have to go for state approvals, usually all those stormwater plans, we still have to follow the state guidelines. And like Mr. Bobby said, that their guidelines plus whatever he thinks would be the best way to move forward to do all the water quality. So this thing would go through like multiple steps. It's not going to be just one system. It'll go through multiple steps to make sure that the water is collected and water is in the good shape before it enters the system. So it enters the stream. So it will go through multiple steps, not just a single step that a filter and get out. It's not going to be like that. It'll be multiple steps before it even gets into the buffer. And one last thing is, even if we redesign the site, a lot of times what we have done in past is that the stormwater plan that we have, we register it with the city or with the county that this is the stormwater plan, and we would follow that stormwater plan. So whatever the maintenance of it is, like if we have to pump the sediment out once a year, every 6 months, or we can do testing every 6 months to see if there needs to be any pumping, any cleaning, or whatever that needs to be done, we can do something like that where city feels a little bit more comfortable that, okay, they are not 100% responsible for those things as a property owner. We are also responsible for what needs to be done to make sure that everything goes as per the compliance. So that's all it is. And yes, I would not mind tabling this today if council doesn't feel comfortable and they think that they need more answers. One last thing to answer, ma'am, your question. We have not made the full plan because the full plan production cost a whole lot more than a concept plan. So the idea was that this concept plan, the concept plan would give you enough vision to approve it with, obviously with the conditions that the full plan would uphold all the requirements. So even if you approve it today, if our full plans don't uphold the requirements, like Mayor said, that if there are conditions, you can always say that, okay, you guys are not meeting our requirements, so we cannot approve the plans to move forward with the construction. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me say this, you are probably the best presenter that I have ever had here. You're convincing, and I believe you. Now, I always have a policy, I trust but verify. And what you say makes sense, and I'm sure there are a lot of checks and balances.
yeah,
But
and we
to
are
me,
going
the
through at
city
least 4
has
more
a
variances
pretty,
like this.
pretty significant issue already with stormwater, and how we've managed that for a lot of years.
Sure.
And other concerns too. So let me let the city manager, I think did you want to say something?
I never heard the answer to the question, are the gas tanks in the buffers or not?
Can you answer that question?
So gas tank would be right next to the canopy. So it would be in the 75-foot buffer, but it will not be in the 50-foot buffer or 25-foot buffer. It will be a small portion into the 75-foot buffer. And like I said, the gas tanks would be completely protected. They are basically double wall steel tanks with fiber jacketing on them to protect them from corrosion, from all the things that EPD requires. These are strict EPD requirements that we can only put into the ground.
Okay.
So those are there.
So the question is, would they be in any of the buffers?
75-foot
And you're saying that it
buffer.
would be in the 75.
Yes.
Could it be redesigned such that it would not be in any of the buffers?
I can try that.
Because that might
have
be
to-
something that we would also talk about.
I can definitely try that with my consultant, with my engineer, to see how we can move it around to make it the best as away from it as possible.
That if we can, if you're okay with, if that doesn't cause you any harm, the delay, I think everybody, or at least me, I'll see in a minute, everybody would feel a little bit better if we just had some of these conditions together. We sort of put this all together in a cohesive way so that we can move forward with it, as opposed to taking any adverse action tonight. So if you're good with that, I mean, I'm gonna talk to the council, but I just wanted to
No,
to
I'm
make sure you were
definitely good with
first.
that.
Okay.
My only request would be, like, I have some of the notes, what you guys are looking for.
Sure.
I'll try to update the plan with, a proposed gas tank location and all of that, so you guys have some better idea. I might be able to provide some information of what kind of stormwater system and the filters that we are proposing, which are, as per the guidelines. So we can provide you those informations as well for the next time when council meets. So at least they have some idea. But doing the full production would be difficult, but I can give you enough idea so you can discuss with city engineer, and you guys can feel comfortable, and that gives me a chance to
Thank you.
talk to Mr. Bobby and have that.
Because clean water has got to be our top priority here.
And honestly, that's the goal.
Yeah,
That is the
okay.
goal, to bring it to the place where it's nice, beautiful location for city to see and develop off of it, and to make it where it's, it's not harming the
Okay,
site.
all right. Let me revert back to staff and council. I'll close you out. All right. So, is there any problems, David, if this were to be tabled for 30 days?
No.
Okay. So no adverse issues with the applicant. Okay. Council,
I
does
think
anyone have any
before
comments on?
you
Yes,
table
sir.
it for 30 days, your next meeting may not come within 30
Okay,
days.
I
so
understand.
To the next
To the
meeting.
next meeting.
Right.
Okay. Council, do you have any comments on that? Does anybody here feel like that would be helpful?
I do. I
Okay.
think that would be.
Could I get a motion for that then?
Yeah.
All
I'll
right,
give you a
Mr.
motion.
Carter.
I'll make a motion that this application be tabled to it'll be the November meeting. This is the October meeting. Be tabled until the October meeting.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Carter to table this item to the November regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Momtahan. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
All right, let's move on to C2, amendment to section 7.02, off-street parking and loading. This item also has a public hearing, and hopefully it won't go this long. But if it's necessary, we'll do it, so just hang on. All right, go, Ron.
All right. This is an amendment to section 7.02, which is a section of our zoning ordinance that deals with the size of parking spaces. So currently, right now, we have parking spaces permitted in our zoning ordinance as a 10 by 20 standard that came into effect in 2020. In 2018, the city engineer did create the development regulations booklet, which covers both public and private properties. And he also had a standard that was placed in there for a 9 by 18 size space. And so, in speaking with some of our developers and with doing the plan review that we have to do, we stumbled across these competing standards and wanted to try to correct them to at least be the same. So, staff has talked. I've talked with Tom, and we've all talked with Bobby. We have settled on a 9x18 standard, being that kind of is the industry standard that we've seen in most jurisdictions. I can say truthfully that I've seen it in all jurisdictions, but I also understand that we also like a larger parking space as well, a 10x20 standard. So that was something that we kind of had to juggle. And we decided to stick with the standardized size for a parking space, which is the 9x18 that's in the development code.
Okay, so what you're doing here is you've got the zoning ordinance, which has 10x20 as the standard, and then you have the UDC, which has 9x18.
That's
correct?
right. Mm-hmm.
And what you're trying to do here is make these two jive.
That's
to
right.
make them both be the same, and your recommendation is the 9x18.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some conversation earlier about, I had some concerns that maybe these spaces should be a little bigger than 10x20, but the more we talk, the more I realize that the standard is about 9x18. Does that sound fair?
I would say so.
Okay.
Mhm.
Council, do you have any questions for Ron? Or Mr. Mumptahan?
Ron, can you give me, just help me visualize this. Can you give me an example of where I can find a 9x18 or a 10x20 space? In the city somewhere?
Well, I haven't measured any existing projects. I can only kind of eyeball these things. So I would definitely say the Walmart parking lot, being that the spaces are very, very narrow, I can only imagine that looks and it feels like a standardized parking space, a 9x18.
Okay.
Typically, when you start seeing 10x20 spaces, have you ever been in a parking lot that has the double lines on each side?
Mm-hmm.
That's indicative of a 10x20 parking space. So you see them around. I don't recall seeing any in Villa Rica. I could be mistaken on that, but they're kind of rare. It's something that you don't really see very often, unless the development is specific to that. So, do you guys have non?
When I see that, I see it as sort of the handicap spaces, right? That's where they have the extra foot.
No,
Actually, handicap spots are 8 feet wide, and they usually have a striped pattern next to them. So we have a detail in our development regulations for that, but usually they're actually narrower, believe it or not.
If you want to see those, you can go to Sam's over in Douglasville. They have the ones that are separated by spaces.
Okay, well, the ones at Sam's are pretty narrow, too. Those may not be, but I go to Sam's every day. It's about the only place I shop, so.
That's where I saw you.
Well,
yeah.
all right, council, any questions for Ron on this? There's really no reason for this item to take forever. All right, let me do a public hearing. So, is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against this? Are you serious? Well, come on down. Didn't speak about the streams, but it's going to speak about these parking spaces. Welcome, former councilman
You tabled the
Michael
stream, so I
Young.
didn't get a chance. I was going to remind you that that lot was very small, and you got to put a sidewalk in there too, which wasn't on that. So I was going to
That's
talk.
a good point. Keep that in mind, Ron.
Michael
All right,
Young,
go ahead.
9634 Coastal Point Drive, Villa Rica. I corresponded with some of the city council about this, recommending we stay with the larger one because we're in the land of large trucks, not in the land of micro cars. My problem was if you're on East Montgomery headed toward Atlanta or on Main Street headed out toward Fullerville, you have to watch the trucks that are in those parking spaces, watch the trailer hitches because you might hit one. You have to get out into the other lane in some cases to get around the end of those things. Well, the response from city staff was those would not be affected because those are under the Uniform Development Code, which is 9x18, which is, prove my point, they're too small. If I have to move out of the traffic lane to avoid a trailer hitch, those spaces are too small. There are a lot of cases in Publix or Walmart shopping, I can't get out of the car because somebody parked right alongside of me when they weren't there when I got there, but they pulled up right alongside of me, still in their lane, but I can't get into my car on that side. So I would recommend sticking with the bigger ones.
Yeah, I would offer that people are going to park crazy no matter how big the space is, but I don't have any objection to that either. All right, anybody else want to speak for or against this this item? All right, then I'll close the public hearing on that and revert back to staff and council. Council, you have any questions for staff? Is there, Ms. McPherson?
Really more of a comment, because I do agree, we have a lot of big vehicles, SUVs, that sort of thing. Sometimes I'm in one of those in the family, and sometimes I'm in the smaller one. But I will say, part of what we did out here, when you're talking about the truck sticking, is a design feature that is a problem from the beginning. Because you can even put a double line area that traffic is not supposed to come in that area that close to those vehicles. It's just designed poorly out there to begin with. Hopefully when we redo the whole downtown, it happens over on 78. There's just not that buffer area before the road, the highway. In this case, state highways, no less.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so let me just say this on the cover sheet. Your motion actually reads to approve the proposed amendment to section 7.02 of the City of Villa Rica zoning ordinance as attached here too, but there's nothing attached here too. My understanding is what you are proposing is that the change reflect the zoning ordinance to be changed to 9/18. Is there an attachment here?
The attachment was the revision that I made to the actual zoning ordinance itself, and
I don't see it in my. I don't see it here. I only see one. I only see the cover sheet.
Yeah, it's not attached.
Hold on.
So even if
It was
we
on
were
there
going to do a motion,
See
it's incomplete.
I suggest we table it.
Yeah, you don't get any problem with that, do you, Ron? There's no reason to do this tonight. Let
No.
me get a motion to table this to the next meeting. Mr. Carter?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table this item to the November regular meeting.
Can we pull up
Yeah.
the segment?
So, I have a motion for Mr. Carter to table this item to the regular November meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. McCoy. Any discussion? All in favor? Just make sure you got the backup sheet in there, Ron.
Well, it's in the work
Oh.
session agenda.
Well, it's not here in the regular meeting. Okay, well, we've tabled it anyway, so we'll take it up in November.
I voted against.
Okay.
I was kind of half voting.
I just felt like we had enough information. It's just gonna make next month's.
Well, it doesn't match, so I don't know who was gonna do 9/18, who was gonna do 10/20, and the item is not attached here. All right, let's move on to C3, amendment to section 9.04, non-residential design standards. Ron, this item also has a public hearing.
Yes, so this item is also an ordinance change, non-residential standards. The city's, this particular section of the zoning ordinance deals with industrial and commercial developments together. And that has caused some issues as far as offsets and projections of facade walls, which really was written for commercial developments, not so much for industrial developments. And so with that, we're having a lot of requests for variances, and a lot of folks where we're denying their plans, and they have to continuously kind of come back and try to fit them in, particularly on tilt-up structures, which is truly not designed for these types of offsets. They're really designed to just be perfect squares and rectangles. And in addition to that, we would like to clarify some wordage in regards to storefront transparency to exempt industrial developments from that, being that is, again, something aimed towards a commercial development. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval 5-0 on this one.
Okay, very good. And I do see the attachment here in the regular session for this
Mayor,
item. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're apparently having some issues when we move these items over. It's not carrying both the documents. I'm going to have to get with the software company tomorrow and figure out whether there's an issue. It's not that he forgot to attach it. It's when we copy them over from the work session to create this agenda, it's not moving both the documents.
Okay.
I just wanted to make that clear.
well, I appreciate you doing that, and then maybe you get with the company and get that looked. But maybe go through and review these agendas before they get here, if in fact that's the case. But this one happens to be there, so we're going to go ahead with this one. Council, do you have any questions for Ron on this item? Okay, if none, let me do a public hearing on this, and then we'll come back to staff. Okay, Ron? All right. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this amendment to Section 9.04, which is the non-residential design standards? Okay. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. I'll revert back to Ron and council. Do you have any questions for Ron at this stage? And if not, well, is there any questions? Okay. I will entertain a motion if someone has one.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to Section 9.04 of the City of Villa Rica zoning ordinance as attached hereto.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. McPherson to approve the proposed amendment to Section 9.04 of the City of Villa Rica zoning ordinance as attached hereto. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Momtahan. All in favor? All right, that, all opposed?
I'm sorry, no.
All
In
right,
favor.
that'll be unanimous. If your hand don't go up, sometimes I don't catch it. Okay.
I oppose the motion that.
All right, number C4, amendment to Section 7.08, tree conservation buffers and landscaping compliance. Ron, go ahead.
Yes, and Mayor, just as a disclaimer, this is another one of those that didn't carry over from the work session to the regular session.
So is it in the work session? So it is? Okay, I don't know if you can do it if it's not attached to the cover sheet, so I would rather also table this one if you don't have a problem.
Okay.
I would like these to be with the cover sheet. All right, Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Can you give us a motion?
I'll make a motion that this item be tabled to the November regular session.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Carter to table this item to the regular meeting in November. Is there a second? I have a second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous.
No, it
Well,
wasn't.
no, okay, well,
You got one?
I didn't see
we
it,
can
so
go
it'll be
look at
4-1, so it'll be tabled. All right, let's move on to C5, ALT-02-22, 200 Walton Way, Walton Trail, alteration to planned unit, and there'll also be a public hearing on this. I just didn't happen to catch that out of the corner of my eye. I apologize. All right, go ahead, Ron.
All right, so Walton Communities is requesting an alteration to their plan unit development that they filed with us back in 2019 for 200 Walton Way in order to increase the units and the density and the open space and the number of parking spaces. In addition to bringing in another lot, 615 Old Town Road, into the plan so they can have some more additional space and so it's a little bit more functional. The developer was approved for 110 units in 2019 and for the second phase, and they are looking to go up to 143, so that is an increase of 33 units. And that second phase will feature family housing. The first phase was the senior housing. And the developer is here if you would like to speak to them, but the Planning Commission did approve this, recommend approval for 5-0 as well.
Okay, and what does it do to the site, Ron? How much does it add to the site in terms of green space, parking spaces?
Sure, and I have those figures here under addendum to staff report. So the total acreage increase for the site is about 0.86 acres. And that's just an addition of raw area that they're adding to the site. And the density would be increased from 20.52 to 22. So you're looking at about 1.5 dwelling units an acre increase. But their number of parking spaces on the site that they were proposing in 2019 was about 220 spaces, and now that's going up to 270. So you get 50 more parking spaces out of this. And their parking ratios are in line with all of the other apartment complexes that we've already approved. So I kind of crunched those numbers. They all ranged between around 1.6 and 2 parking spaces per dwelling. So they're coming in at 1.88. So that's solidly within that range. So staff did recommend approval for this change. The open space, I think that was one of the things you asked about. So the open space has increased in raw numbers, being that this new lot has been added. As far as percentage of the entire new site area, that percentage has decreased from around 15% that I calculated to about 10.2%. However, they were approved for a minimum of 10% open space. So they are maintaining that requirement.
Okay, very good. Okay, so, council, do you have any questions for staff before I hear from the applicant? Okay, let's go ahead and have the applicant come up. I'm seeing a lot of you lately. I was at the grand opening just recently,
Yes,
where you
sir.
did most of the talking.
Yes, sir, that's right. Is this on?
Welcome back.
Okay. Yes, thank you, and a special thank you to you, Mayor and Council, and those members of staff and the community that were able to attend that grand opening. We had a wonderful showing and appreciate your attendance.
Thank you for inviting us. Do you have any, do you want to make a presentation, or do you just want to open it up for
I do
questions?
have a presentation if it pleases the council and Mr. Mayor, but in the interest of time, I mean, it's for
Listen,
you all
you're
to
a man
decide.
after my own
so
heart.
we're-
Council, do you have any
we're happy to
questions for him?
discuss.
Yeah.
For the applicant? All right, Mr. Carter.
I'm looking at the layout and I'm seeing buildings. Is this what we're adding to it? Is all these buildings that are around the periphery?
Yes, sir. So, do you mind pulling the site plan? It actually kind of shows the building footprints a little better than the open space plan. And I think, just a point of clarification and a reminder for the council. So when we came in 2019, we proposed a master plan that covered both phases of this proposed redevelopment of former public housing in partnership with the Housing Authority. We completed the first phase, which is 90 active adult homes, delivered at the end of July of this year. Those are over 80% leased and 75% occupied, and we expect that number to climb quickly. The primary driver of the change in the request here tonight in front of council is the addition of a little less than an acre. And so with that, we effectively just increased the overall density of the site, but stayed within the ranges. So the building layout is largely the same, to answer your question, sir. The building layout is largely the same as it was at the master plan, albeit it's expanded slightly to account for the additional 33 units.
Okay.
And that's a survey, so it would be, I've got a paper copy if that's, this is fine for the moment if that's the easiest.
Is that answer your question, Mr. Carter?
What is it you're going to put on the new site? Is it buildings like what you've already built? Is that
That's
what-
correct. I think the primary difference would be these would be exclusively 3-story buildings, whereas the first building is a kind of a hybrid of 3 stories on the new Main Street, Walton Way, and 4 stories on the lower parking lot side, taking advantage of grade and having effectively a basement level. So it's a maximum height would stay the same at 35 feet. I would add that, we would love to increase the amount of green space and open space on this plan. We're constrained to some degree by the parking requirements in the UDC.
So it'll be multi-level buildings?
That's correct, yes,
Just
sir.
like you did put out?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you, sir. I'm gonna open this up for a public hearing, and we'll see if we got more questions after that. Okay, is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this alteration? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public. Who? Oh, well, he didn't. You gotta get quick.
Michael Young, 9634 Coastal Point Drive, Villa Rica. The Villa Rica Housing Authority is supporting this plan.
Oh, okay. So you're speaking on behalf of the Housing Authority. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is, well, I'll save my comments. Is there, all right, I'll close. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for or against this item? All right, I'll close the public hearing now. We'll come back to staff. Counselors, any questions for staff at this juncture? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion. Does anybody have a motion prepared?
Yeah.
Is there?
3 total.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look. What are they?
I'll do the first one.
Give me just a
Alteration.
second. Let me look at it. Move to approve, move
You want me to do the
rezone,
first one?
Move to request staff to make necessary
Yeah, there's
changes.
3 of them.
All right, I'll take the first motion
Okay.
then.
I move to approve the alteration of to PUD application as presented by Walton Communities LLC for the property located at 200 Walton Way.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Montahan to approve the alteration to the PUD application as presented by Walton Communities LLC for property located at 200 Walton Way. And I have a second from Mr. Carter. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. I'll take a second motion.
Okay. I move to rezone 615 Old Town Road from single-family urban R2 to planned unit development PUD.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Carter to rezone 615 Old Town Road from single-family urban R2 to planned unit development PUD, and a second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous, and I'll hear the third motion. Anybody?
Yeah. I move to request for staff to make the necessary changes to the zoning map in order to reflect the change of zoning for 615 Old Town Road.
All right,
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Carter to request for staff to make the necessary changes to the zoning map in order to reflect the change of zoning for 615 Old Town Road, and second from Ms. McPherson. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, thank you, Ron.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
guys.
Thank you.
Can I ask Ron something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Only because the applicant mentioned they would like to have more green space, but because of our parking requirements, and I don't think it hurts every now and then to look back at those and see if, do we need all the parking we're required, or could they have more green space? Not necessarily in this case, but just something we need to consider.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay.
So I do want to make some comments, though, about Walton Communities. I was there for the grand opening last Wednesday, and, you know, sort of echoing what Michael is talking about and Dick Chambers. I mean, what you guys have done over there has just been something that we could be proud of here in the city of Villa Rica. I was so proud to be standing out there. As I talked about the day that I was there, I lived in those apartments, apartment number 19, when I was a little boy, when they were the housing projects. And to see how that place has changed over these last really 18 months, but we'd been working on this for a number of years, but B, really in earnest since about 2018 when we went to see some of the Walton projects. I just really want to commend you all for the work you've done over there, for the way you've worked with our staff here, and the way that you've really been good partners with us here in the city of Villa Rica. So I want to thank you for that, and we don't always get a chance to do that. So I want to thank you for that. Y'all been really, really good to work with for all of us. I hear about it on a regular basis, so thank you for that. All right, now we're going to get, I guess Miss Sarah is going to fill in for Jennifer and give us our financial update, and we're going to try to move right along here. All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
This is a financial update as of August 2022. If you'll flip on to the next slide. This is our cash. You see total cash listed there. This compares August of last year to August of this year. We are over $30.5 million total, but that is split out into separate buckets. General fund, water, and sewer fund you see there listed. Those have grown over the years as we have put ourselves in a better financial position. The last three are our current SPLOST bank accounts that we have. The 2015 Carroll, we are no longer receiving money for that, but we are waiting to spend, I think, the majority of that on some road improvement projects. All right, moving on. This is our residential permits and taps. Looks like we're finally kind of catching up to where we were last August. We have 81 building permits that have come in this year, again, for residential, compared to 88 as of this time last year. And the water and sewer taps are keeping in line with that. Okay. Local option sales tax, we continue to see growth here. Both Carroll and Douglas are over 13% higher than where we were last year. Carroll came in at $183,000 for August, and Douglas came in at $160,000. Okay. Hotel tax. We have been seeing a high trend. I don't want to scare you. You do see a decrease there, a 9% decrease, but if you see Jennifer's note at the bottom, one of our entities, they submitted their return late, so we'll see that caught up in September. So we're still ahead of last year by about 26% in our hotel motel tax. All right, not last, excuse me, water and sewer. This is our basically profit and loss statement for water and sewer. You can see down at the bottom, last year at this time, we had a loss of $56,000. This year, we are showing income of almost $5.4 million, but you have to remember 5.9 of that is our ARPA fund. She's made a note here on the side. Let's look at that. So we're seeing some increase in sewer, mainly due to chemicals. 209,000 is high, 209,000 higher than last year. M&R equipment, 162,000 higher than last year. Our salaries and benefits and electricity is up. Again, that's in sewer. That's why you see the large increase in sewer. Okay. Sanitation, solid waste. Last year at this point, we had a net income of $15,000. This year we're showing $83,000, but I have to make a note. This fund runs, our GFL bills run a month in arrears. So when we pay the $85,000 for our final bill, you can see that we will be slightly less than breaking even on that one. And lastly, self-funded insurance. Our bank account is $1.2 million. And so far this year, we've had a savings of $421,000 in that fund. Okay, any questions?
All right, council, do you have any questions for Sarah?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I mean, these are always a little bit easy because we've had this information already in these, in the supporting documents for a while. So math is math. All right, we've reached the most exciting part of our evening at all council meetings, and that is our cheery, exciting, always sunshine city manager. So
Sunshine and rainbows.
And rainbows and Skittles, and always done with a smile. All right, go ahead.
At least you weren't in the staff meeting yesterday.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, I think so. All right. So there's
I did hear about it, just so you know, and I heard how cheery it was too.
And it continued through the whole day like that too.
And I looked in the room before I decided to leave.
All right, so
go.
We have made progress on a number of our projects, but the one that I consider our top strategic initiative currently involves our application with EPD for indirect potable reuse. So we met with them for the second time, and we are trying to push them, which is very difficult, not to make a decision, but to tell us soon if the answer is no. Because it costs us money to do what they're asking us to do, but if any parts of this is no, then we just want to quit working on it because it's just a waste of money. But here's how this is going to shake out. We know from experience now that we don't have enough raw water. And we're not going to. There's nowhere within economic reach for us to acquire more raw water. The mayor and I have agreed that if we can't identify at least 3 million gallons a day of raw water, that we're not going to recommend to build a new water plant. And our water plant is 60 years old, which is almost as old as some of us. And like most of us, it is not in the greatest of shape, and at some point it will no longer be cost effective to keep it operating. And if we are not able to build a new plant, then that means we're going to become a captive customer of somebody, and we are going to hate our lives, just as a principle. Don't know who it would be with or specifics, but I'm just telling you that we do not want to live our life in that situation if we can avoid it. In addition to that, we have learned in the last 2 or 3 years that receiving an increase in our sewer plant discharge is probably not possible. EPD has imposed on us and others a requirement or a limitation of discharge at the level of 30% of the annual flow of the creek that receives the discharge. And in our case, the two creeks that we discharge into are the outlet from Mirror Lake, which is Piddling, so that's where the north plant discharges, and this same creek that we were just talking about. So that creek runs west on the south side of the railroad, and that's what we discharge into, and it just doesn't have any volume. So even though we did a great job, and I mean a great forward-looking job when we designed the west plant, so that it can go from 2 million to 3 million to even 6 million gallons a day, it doesn't do us any good because we can't discharge it. So again, if we have indirect potable reuse, what that means is we would take the discharge, and instead of putting it in the creek, we would pump it and put it back in our reservoirs. So this indirect potable reuse helps us twice, right? Gives us more water, which makes it possible to build the water plant, which helps us with the west plant. And if we can do that, then we can redirect flow from the north plant to the west plant, which helps us with the north plant. So this is 4 birds in 1 stone, and it's all or nothing. So this is the most important thing we're working on. The mayor and Sarah and I have spent a bazillion hours on the TAD, but this is more important, right? The TAD is like number 2. So don't get me wrong, but this is number 1, and we're working on it. And hiring Judd Turner is one of the best things we've done, because he opens doors for us that otherwise this would not even be remotely practical. But that's where we are. This is the project that y'all need to keep up with, because it is going to affect our future in so many ways. And this is what I told the guys on the Zoom call. If we can't work this out, then there's going to come a time when we can't make enough water, or we close the water plant and we buy all of it. There is also going to come a day when we do not have enough sewer plant capacity, and there is no such thing as outsourcing sewer. We are not going to our neighbor and have them treat our sewer. Does that make sense? Carroll County doesn't even offer sewer. And Douglas doesn't have sewer in West Douglas. So there is no outsourcing it. So it is critical that we get this done. If it's possible, we will be the guinea pig in the state. These guidelines were created in March of 21, and we immediately applied, but we will be the first, or in the first group of approved applicants. And you know what that means, right? The whole thing about the pioneer and, right? That's going to be us, but it's better than the alternative, because the alternative is not pretty. So keep on asking about that, because that's the big one. All right, I'll give you some good news at the end of that, because that one is just like hanging over our head all the time and hard to deal with. So you guys have approved a ton of money for sewer improvements. And particularly at the North Plant, which is sort of the problem child of the system, we have replaced both the aerators, the disc filter, and the belt press at that facility. That is almost becoming a sewer plant again after, I don't know what year it was built. When was it built? 90?
Yeah.
80? I don't even know how old it is.
I don't know either.
It's an old plant, and it's a little bitty, right? So it makes it cost ineffective to run. But that money has been really well spent, and when we met Friday and talked about the West Plant and North Plant and everything that's going on, I really believe that 1 year from now, either at the end of the next budget year or the end of 23, that we're going to look at those two plants and maybe not have a project list for either one of them. And that'll be a first, people. Because up until now, we're still figuring out what the project list even is. Right? But we're getting there. So another year, and I believe we'll be able to say that we don't have a project list on the north for the north plant or the west plant. Lots of other stuff is going on. Some of it impacted by supply. We still don't have the generator for this building installed. We're waiting on a switch that's November, I think. But we have finished the HVAC in the gym at Gold Dust. That building is what? Is that 1980? When was Gold Dust built? Right? So it's got HVAC for the first time in the gym. Right? That's a big deal. Right? I mean, we tried putting that in the budget how many times and never had the money and finally did. So, I mean, y'all should be looking at some of this stuff and taking some pride in it, because we have accomplished some things that we have tried to do year after year after year and are finally accomplishing. I'm not going to go through all the meetings, but the big one was with the school board, and we'll talk some more about the TAD and the status of that at a future meeting, but we're really working to get that one done. Like I said, that's number 2. The mayor's sick of it. Sarah's sick of it. I'm sick of it. They're sick of it. I don't know how it's going to end up, but we are diligently working on that. I have 2 whole pages of development stuff going on. I made a list the other day. There's almost 50 projects going on now between residential and industrial and commercial. The difficulty with it is almost none of them are vertical yet, right? And most of them are not even grading or clearing yet. So there is still this large number of potential construction projects that are in design that could go on the shelf. And we're waiting to see, what does interest rates do, supply issues, are residential prices going to drop? Like, I don't know, but I see that there's the possibility of that. And so it may be that some of these projects that we've been talking about forever and ever just lose steam at the point of actually starting to clear and grade. But we do have a number of them that are building, and if you're not getting around to see them, you probably don't realize that they're going on. But Steve Adams' building is almost finished next door to the library. ServPro out on 78, which is a great big building, is near completion. Chippy's, which is the animal grooming facility out in the industrial park, continues to make progress. Arbor Valley, where we did the groundbreaking, has a couple of buildings that are framed. South Harbor 2A, which is behind the mayor, has about 8 houses that are under construction. The development on North Dogwood, just north of the railroad, all 16 of those houses are going up at the same time, and they're hoping to be finished with that neighborhood in December, like all the houses are sold, everybody's moved in December, right? So if you want to see that in progress, you better go look, because before too long, it's all going to be done. Twin Oaks Phase 2 has 6 houses under construction, and we just finished the lift station for Phase 2, so we're making progress out there. Overlook out in Mirror Lake's got a couple of houses under construction. Flex TC, which is the company that bought the last lot from us in the industrial complex, is in construction. And I didn't even know this one until I asked. The road across the street from City Hall, at the end of that road, there's construction going on. Do you even know that? They got 6 houses under construction back there, right up against I-20. At the end of Tanyard, yeah. So we got some stuff going on, and there's a few that are grading. The car wash on Connors, the townhomes at Leggett and Industrial, of course the townhomes next door to me on Hickory Level, Connors Landing, which is on Connors across the street from Liberty Point, is grading. Charleston Place Phase 3 is still grading. So that's 5 right there that I'm thinking are gonna that are gonna make it to construction. But we have 15 that are in design still, or 20 or more. We've also got a number of businesses that were gonna come here, and I can't tell if they're stalled or what, but like the IHOP, sort of came and went. The personal care home on 61 got zoned 4 years ago, never came back. We've had one headquarters that wanted to come out on 78, little bitty operation. I don't know what happened to them. So anyway, so there's still a lot going on. We've got a couple of remodelings. So Walmart, Home Depot, and the Pilot truck stop are all doing renovations or expansions or something. But overall, I'm pretty encouraged. I don't know what the economy is going to do to us, but we're going to look back at this, even with, maybe part of them stalling out. If we can do the TAD, and we can get Jeff in here, Arbor Valley finishes, then I think we have a chance at the 3rd one, which is inline. I think we got a good chance at the 5th one, which is up there at the Dollar General. I don't know about the 4th one still, but their first development is behind the high school, behind the old Days Inn, and they're getting ready to go on that one. That's the one where we just did the road approval tonight. So we're getting there. It's going to be a different place in another couple of years.
All right. Any questions, Tom? Mr. Carter?
Okay, first off, would you please send your list of projects to the council? Second, when we talked in the past, not too long ago, we talked about discharge, and we designed a clean drinking water type discharge for the west plant, so the water's coming out real clean. We talked about pumping it back into the reservoirs, but you said that EPD might not approve that. Is that still the case?
They have never approved it anywhere in the state.
So, but I heard you talking now like that's
what we're trying to do. So they approved the guidelines to theoretically allow for the approval of such a permit, but they haven't actually issued a permit to anybody. But we might have been the first applicant.
Okay, back when the West Plant was designed and built, we didn't have a problem with the discharge into the stream. Is that a recent change they've
Yes.
made?
Yes.
That was my question. When? Within the last 2 years?
Since I've been here.
Well, that's 5 years.
Yeah, but the plant was designed in 6 or something.
I was involved back in my first term, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's when we built the plant, and I continued on with the construction after I left council.
Yeah,
So,
what we discharge out of the West Plant's cleaner than what's in the creek.
yeah, we designed
But
it that way.
We improve the quality of the water, but their way of thinking about it is significantly influenced by the percentage of the water that we're introducing as opposed to the quality of it.
That's too bad, because we designed that plant so that you could actually drink the water being discharged. Is that clean?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Anybody else?
So,
Ms. McPherson.
So you said that change as to what we can discharge percentage-wise has changed within the years that you were here, somewhere within that 5 year. Okay, and last question, do we have any time frame that we're expecting a response from the school board regarding the TAD? We're just waiting, only because I thought with Jeff Fuqua, that's time matters.
Yeah, the fact that we could not get the TAD done in time for Jeff is why we brought the item tonight for us to fund the escrow out of our own pocket, and then hope we get a bond issue done down the road and get it back.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. So we do have an executive session tonight. It has 2 items on it. Do you anticipate an action from that? I mean, you're gonna ask for something on either of those things tonight? Well, one of them we wouldn't talk about anyway.
I don't think so.
Okay, so, Joel, you can, he's not paying attention, is he? Goodness gracious. So, after we adjourn to executive session, you can wrap up for the night, okay? All right, so we're gonna go into executive session. I need a motion to do
Okay,
that.
I make
Who
a
will do
motion
it?
to go to executive session.
All right, Mr. Mecklin.
Go into executive session for the purposes of meeting to discuss contract related to real estate, and the second reason for deliberating upon the appointment, employment, compensation of personnel.
All right, I have that motion from Mr. Carter. Is there a second? Have a second from Ms. Marchman. All in favor? All right, we'll be in executive session and then we'll come back out.